Ever wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons but don't know where to start? That's what I'm gonna teach you in this video. So you've been called over by a few friends to play some D&D. Today, I'll help you get started understanding the game enough to be prepared for your first session and have the basic understanding on how to make your first character. For starters, D&D or Dungeons & Dragons is a collaborative storytelling game told in the worlds of medieval fantasy, in which you have one of two roles. You're either a normal player or the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master, or DM, is the player in charge of creating the worlds, the stories, and acting as the NPCs, which is every other character in the world that isn't a PC, or characters controlled by players. There is only one Dungeon Master in the table, and they have the role of a narrator of sorts, telling the stories of the world which the players interact with. Since this is a more technical role and demands a bit more time, we recommend that the DM be a person that has already played before. But DMing is not as hard as many people believe. You don't need a perfect understanding of the rules to DM. In fact, you act as an arbiter exactly so you don't need to check the rules all the time. All you need is imagination and a good story to tell. As a DM, just try to make the game as fun as possible for your players. As for the other players, they are in charge of creating a single character they can roleplay in the world created by the Dungeon Master. They control that character's actions, decisions, and this is important, they have a character sheet that tells them what their character is good and bad at, and what type of abilities that character has. The first thing you need to do as a player is think of what character you want to play. This can be inspired by your favorite movies, books, D&D streams, or even something completely new. From there, you create your character sheet to match the character you want. Long story short, D&D is a cooperative game. All the players in the table play together as a group or party and try to find creative ways to overcome the challenges set by the DM. Okay, but how do you know if a challenge is accomplished or not? Some of these interactions may be easy enough, like opening a door or walking somewhere. But if an action poses a risk of failure like jumping across a ravine, the player will be required to make a dice roll or check that is compared against a number set by the DM based on how hard the action is. If you roll a number equal or higher, you succeed, otherwise you fail, moving the story forwards either way. Which leads us to one of the best things about D&D, weird dice. The most important of them is a D20. This is the dice you roll for almost everything in the game. In fact, you only roll another dice if the book specifies it. The other dice are the D12, D10, D8, D6, D4, and the percentile dice. If you don't understand what a D something is, it means the number of sides that dice has. Like a D20 is a dice with 20 sides. Finally, the last thing we need to touch on before we get to the game, the character sheet. If you don't have a character sheet, you can download it from D&D's official website. There, you can also find some pre-generated character sheets if you want to jump straight to playing. You'll find the rules for character creation in the player's handbook and throughout the other 5 ebooks. But if you don't want to spend any money, you can find the basic rules for free in D&D Beyond. I'm just going to talk about the very basics of character creation here, so that you get an idea of what's going on. So let's go. This is the header. It contains the most important features of your character, which is your name, race, class, background, and alignment. From these, you'll find all the other information you need to fill up the sheet. First, the race. This is which fantastical race your character will be from. Currently in 5e, this is mostly what you look like, coupled with some basic abilities you get from them. So there are no wrong choices, and there are a bunch of options throughout all the D&D books. Second, the class. And this is a biggin. This is where most of your abilities come from. This is basically where you decide what you want your character to do. There are currently 13 in the game that vary from magic users, healers, fighters, to sneaky characters. Just choose one you feel like playing and go for it. There are always chances to play the other ones. Besides, you probably won't be the only player in the table, so you'll see quite a few of them in action. Just remember that D&D is a cooperative game, so when choosing your character, try to complement the rest of your party with your choice of class. For example, if there are already a couple of close combat characters in the table, it might be a wise choice to choose a healer or an archer instead. Third, the background. This doesn't impact your character mechanically all that much, but it's one of the most important parts of the game. It's your character's story. Who they are, what they've done, and what they want to do. Preferably, come up with a lot of this so your DM can use it in-game. At this point, we should also choose an alignment. Alignment is kind of a matrix that helps your DM understand a generalization on how your character acts. It goes from good to evil, and lawful to chaotic, and neutral as a midpoint for each. This won't determine exactly on how your character is, but it will serve as a guideline on how to play them. The last thing we need is to roll some ability scores. They are the basis for every dice roll in the game. They are strength, how hard you hit, dexterity, how agile, sneaky, and hard to hit you are, constitution, how hard it is to take you down, intelligence, how book smart you are, wisdom, how perceptive and knowledgeable of the world you are, and charisma, how good you are at interacting with other people. Okay, but how do you determine these stats? Well, they're determined by rolling 4d6, the normal dice, and taking away the lowest die. You do this for all 6 stats. As a basis, 10 is the most average ability, and anything under and above it means that you're either worse than average or better than average in that ability. You choose where each number goes based on your choice of class and what you want your character to be good at. These values will be transformed into modifiers, which is the actual number you get to sum to the dice. You will find out each modifier by comparing the scores in the ability score and modifiers table in the player's handbook, page 13. Now, depending on the race, class, and background you choose, you add their abilities and equipment to your character sheet. But we'll not be covering that today. If you want a video specific to character creation, please comment down below. Now, I think it's time to get to the game. Hope you enjoyed this video. Bye bye.